honesty and integrity. Brothers laboring this truth, putting their life on the line, especially in these times. Salutations to you, brothers and sisters who believe in the truth wholeheartedly and sincerely. Shalom to the hopeful elect. All right, we're going to start here. We'll read 2 Ezra 4:37. It reads, by measure hath he measured the times, and by number hath he numbered the times, and he do not move nor stir them until the said measure be fulfilled. All right, so we're in a time, we're seeing prophecy jumping off the page. We're seeing things happening geopolitically, a lot of friction amongst, powers and superpowers, right? But see, we understand, there's a things gotta go in chronologically order when it comes to prophecies, right? Like, there's gonna be Jacob's trouble in the midst of that. That hour of temptation is gonna be the implementation of the mark of the beast, right? The mark of the beast, right? So it's we seeing these friction overseas, over there in the east, right? Eurasia or Western Asia, right? What they call the Middle East. But that is not the end all be all. We're not gonna just they're gonna be an all out war and Yahweh Shai come without that MOTB being implemented. All right. So, but what we're seeing is a beautiful time to be alive. Like, blessed are your eyes, right? The scriptures say, because we're seeing these things manifest right before us, man. It's being made clear that these skirmishes is going to start to ramp up, and and that's going to lead to a disruption to the global economy, which is ultimately it's going to happen. You see, like the scripture says, it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. There's no stopping this, right? The Lord's word is not going to return unto him void, all right? Sirach 39, also known as the book of Ecclesiasticus, 39, verse 16, it reads, all the works of the Lord are exceeding good, and whatsoever he commandeth shall be accomplished in due season. All right, so this is that season, right? You know how the scripture says, let's go grab it. Ecclesiastes 3:1, it reads, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the sun, right? So in due season, in that right season, will these prophecies come to pass, all right? But what the scripture says here, let's grab it. Chapter 2 and 3, and it reads, for the vision, right, for the season, right, that vision, right, is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak, right? And again, they're speaking right now, all right, and not lie. Though it tarry, right, it may seem that the MOTB is tarrying, right, but wait for it, right? So you got to endure, right? Because it will surely come. It will not tarry, all right? And when it comes, it's going to come fast, man. You're going to see these problems. When like the elder apostle always says, when that MOTB implemented, Yahweh Shai is coming soon right after, right? So it's tarrying. Though it tarry, wait for it, but it will surely come, man, right? So we're seeing us, like when you starting to see it become spring, you start the trees to start to bud, right? You see the trees start to bud. That spring's coming, right? When when fall's coming, right? When we're in winter, right? But you start to see the progression to that season, and that's what we're seeing, man. We're almost at the time where Yahweh Shai is going to pull up, but things have to come in their due season, all right? And they will come, all right? So we just got to be patient. All right, now let's bring it back. And it reads, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted, right? Because you see, this kingdom is going to be plucked up, man. Yahweh Shai let Esau rule for a little season, right? And now you're starting to see that sown places seem unsown, right? His covering, that veil that he had all over the people, his enchantments, those things are starting to fade away. Right? And it reads, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up. All right, and this is a time of breaking down when Yahshua kingdom is set up through Yahweh Shai, the 144,000, King David sitting on that throne, right? That's when there's going to be a time to build up, right? But we're in the time of breaking down, right? The time of the circling of the drain of Esau Edom's kingdom, all right? And it reads, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And the brothers are mourning right now. They're crying out loud. They complaining to the Lord, When you go on Ezekiel 9:4, right? You go on the 2nd Ezra 15, right? The souls complain continually, right? We're crying out for the abominations that's done in the midst thereof, all right? Because this is we're under an unprofitable king, but we're seeing that transitional power, because of the unrighteous dealings, right? And because of promise, because of prophecy, and because of the promise, the covenant that was made with the nation of Israel. All right, but we're starting to see that being manifest. All right, and it reads, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, right? And you've seen the love of many waxing cold because iniquity abound, right? And it says a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, right? So this is the time where the prophets are speaking right now. But there's going to be a time where there is going to be a famine of the word, right? So this is the time to speak, all right? Blowing that trumpet in Zion, all right? And it reads, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace, right? And now we're seeing a time of war, man. Shiloh, the Prince of Peace, Yahweh Shai, he's going to come with healing in his wings. That's when we're going to see peace, all right? But now we're in a time of war. You see, we're in a time of a paradigm shift, right? A time of two kingdoms, between good and evil. You see, and right now, evil's been sown, but it's going to be quenched, all right, and it's going to be put out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, because what's good can't come until evilness is out the picture, man. Right, through the spirit of, roughly paraphrasing, right? The scriptures talk about that when the righteous authority, the people rejoice, when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn, right? So the wicked has to be unplucked, right? They have to be thrown down, all right? So we're in that time of them being thrown down. They're falling from the heavens, right? Oh, Lucifer, who fall from the heavens, they're falling from the heavens. That this is the man that made the whole earth tremble, right? This man is losing his reputation of being that dude, man. All right, and that's basically it, man. We're in this is the time we're in right now, man. That call Halayim La Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, man. We continue to watch the prophecies. You got the elder apostles going into the prophecies, going into the conduct, what conduct will ought to, knowing all these things would be dissolved. What men or persons you ought to be in, all holy conversation, roughly paraphrasing, which is going into your conduct, knowing that this place is going to melt with fervent heat, man. Knowing that the works thereof the hurtful works is almost fulfilled, man. They're gonna be, this place is going to be destroyed through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, man. So we, more than ever, man, we gotta again, pray without ceasing. Continue to, do the things to get you closer to the Lord fast, right? Be plugged in, man. Be plugged in. Be on fire. The spirit of power. Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua Shalom.